Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. So today is the 4th of the 5th, January 6th, House Select Committee. It's actually live now, and the whole point, many have said, why are we doing this? Like, ultimately, we believe, first of all, we want to get to the bottom of this, outline and show how Donald Trump was at the center of all of this, right? So ultimately, criminal charges, indictment. I know the conviction is a long shot, but you never know. So I'm going to play a little clip here just to sum up exactly what's going on here with these January 6th hearings and what the goal is.
Luke, we've been talking to you about the January 6th committee since its creation a little less than a year ago. And we've always understood its mission to be figuring out what caused the events of that day and who's responsible for it. So how do these televised hearings in particular fit into that mission?
In the nearly a year since the January 6th committee began its work, it started doing dozens and then hundreds and then finally more than 1,000 closed-door interviews. These are secret interviews that no one ever had access to, the press couldn't go into, the public couldn't go into. And they included,
which makes it
Trump
so
White House officials,
compelling and interesting.
People that were rioters that day. They included state officials and Department of Justice officials and the National Guard and everybody in between. And so these hearings are the committee's chance to begin revealing its findings from all these interviews and from the more than 140,000 documents it obtained. And they're going to show that their investigation has concluded this all boils down to one man being at the center of
Donald Trump.
And that man is Donald Trump.
But big picture, Luke, what's the purpose of doing that?
Right.
Because a great deal of this story and even Trump's role in it seems to have been told over the past year.
Yeah.
So there are probably a couple of goals for the committee, depending on which committee member it is. I think for the vice chairwoman of the committee, Liz Cheney, and for Adam Kinzinger, the other Republican on the committee,
they want to separate.
Is to try to excise Trump from the party once and for all. To convince both the American people, but also the members of their own party, that we cannot follow this guy anymore. And we're going to lay out exactly why. That's the goal from the Republicans on the committee.
What about the Democrats, the majority of people on the committee?
Well, they would say their goal is to get to the bottom of the facts. But there is a political goal here for Democrats writ large, I think. And that is to draw a contrast with the Republican Party, which, fell under Donald Trump's spell and followed him, and then contrast that with the things that their party's doing. So, yes, there may be problems with the economy right now, but we didn't try to overthrow an election.
Exactly.
And there's potentially one more goal, which is held by, I think, the majority of the Democrats and the Republicans on the committee. And that is that they are actually building a case that could be
this is what I
by
said
the Justice Department and used for a criminal charge against Donald Trump or his top allies to hold them accountable for the violence of January 6th.
Guys should be put in prison and never let out.
They're hoping that a couple people in particular are watching these hearings, including the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland.
Yes, and we know that Merrick Garland said that he is, and that his top prosecutors are. So they are following this case very closely.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about how the committee has constructed these hearings to do all the things that you just laid out.
Well, they have set up a series of hearings to try to have maximum impact. And the first thing they did was they scheduled their first hearing to be in prime time. And they negotiated with the networks to carry it live. And so I was at the Capitol for the first hearing. And
the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol will be in order.
The hearing opens with Congressman Benny Thompson, who is the chairman of the committee.
Donald Trump lost the presidential election in 2020.
And I know as a reporter who's covered this very closely, one of the questions we all had in the press gallery at the time was, would the committee actually discover things that were new, things we had not heard before?
I think so.
We have, I think, uncovered a lot of things that happened in the build-up to January 6th, and some of us were actually skeptical that they would be able to find anything that we didn't.
Damning
But right
stuff
off the
too.
bat,
It was not because of voter fraud. Don't believe me? Hear what his former attorney general had to
Calls it
say
bullshit.
about it.
Chairman Thompson plays a clip from
Attorney
an
General
interview
Barr.
with former Attorney General Bill Barr.
I had 3 discussions with the president that I can recall.
And Bill Barr recounts how he went in 3 times.
That was
to tell
shocking to
Donald
hear
Trump.
him.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
See?
And I remember sitting up in the chair in the hearing room and thinking, oh, wow, they're really going to start bringing the goods here.
He was the Attorney General of the United States, the top law enforcement official in the country, telling the president exactly what he thought about claims of a stolen election.
And then Chairman Thompson turns the microphone over to
It's my pleasure to recognize Ms. Cheney.
the vice chairwoman,
Gee,
Thank you very
grill.
much, Mr. Chairman, and let me echo.
Liz Cheney of Wyoming.
As you
Dick
will see
Cheney's
in
daughter.
the hearings to come, President Trump believed his supporters at the Capitol, and I quote, "We're doing what they should be doing."
And
This is
at a
what-
typical congressional hearing, this would be the time when the Republican starts to undercut what the Democrat has just said, and a
Right.
fight sort of ensues at the dais.
Yeah.
Instead,
President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this
100%.
attack.
she adopts a stance that's just as tough on Donald Trump, if not even tougher, than what Benny Thompson has just
Exactly.
said. And it becomes very clear that the Republicans on the committee and the Democrats on the committee are
Same.
in lockstep
Absolutely
with condemning
lockstep.
what Donald Trump did and detailing all of the evidence about how he tried to subvert an American election.
Right. This was the moment for me, Luke, where it became clear that this hearing was going to be totally unlike any other congressional hearing.
I'm going
we're
to
used
stop
to
in a minute.
seeing,
I'm going to put
because it was going to be
the link in the
uncluttered
comment section.
by all those interruptions and partisan bickerings that
Yeah.
defined a traditional congressional hearing and make it almost impossible to tell a single story.
Exactly.
Yes, I think very few people end up watching them. And instead, what we got was a very streamlined presentation where a really clear narrative could be told.
Very,
In
very
our country,
impressive.
we don't swear an oath to an individual or a political party.
Yes,
We take our oath to defend the United States Constitution.
exactly. Okay, so I'll put the rest. There's like 25 more minutes of this. It's really good. So I'm actually reading an article this week's New Yorker on Ron DeSantis. All right, so it's interesting. They compare. It says here, DeSantis faces re-election later this year, but his ascent has been so dramatic that in a few polls he comes out ahead of Trump in the race for the Republican presidential nomination in 2024. So both men claim to channel the rage of an electorate that feels sneered and dismissed by liberal institutions. But while Trump, with his lazy, clown-like, P.T. Barnum-esque persona, projects a fundamental lack of seriousness, DeSantis has an intense ethic, a formidable intelligence, and a granular understanding of policy. So some people have even said he's Trump with a brain. So I'm telling you, DeSantis, the guy is at least one thing. He's smart, very smart. His resume is just incredible. Went to Yale, Harvard Law School, served as a judge and attorney for the Navy SEALs in Iraq. Was a great baseball player. So there's a lot of things to like about him. I know that's not a popular thing to say, to hear from the left. But anyway, I'm going to be doing more on the January 6th and also on Ron DeSantis. So good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here in Tabor Talk.